Christmas, a time of joy, filled with spending time with loved ones, making memories, sharing laughs, and giving gifts. Truly the greatest time of the year. But what happens when gift giving goes horribly wrong? When one innocent gift causes more harm than good? That's what we are here to talk about, when Christmas becomes a haunting nightmare. This is the 12 Days of Spookmas.
Hello, on Frank. Look at the ornaments on the tree when you do that. They're shaking.
Probably shaking your whole house. Birds are like, oh god.
Earthquake. Hello. Last night was our weekly game of Crazy 8 and we had the sillies.
It was rough. We were having a rough time. We got so into it that I forgot. I didn't even know what time it was. And my boyfriend called me and I was like, hang on, I gotta hang up, Taylor's calling me. And so I answer and I'm like, hello? And he goes, can you come unlock the door? And I'm like, oh, my bad. I didn't even know what time it was.
It's freaking 11:30 at night. After a certain point at night, we get the giggles, okay? And if we usually hang up every night at 10:30, but this time we stayed on the phone till like 11:50. And after 11 o'clock, things get crazy.
We were just cracking up. Like we couldn't breathe half the time.
On Frank, Rosa Parks, and leads me to Helen Keller.
Rosa Parks leads you to Helen Keller?
Well, actually, Anne Frank does. Because the amount of people I have met in my life that get Anne Frank and Helen Keller mixed up. I was arguing with Jordan one day about Helen Keller because I'm about to tell you my opinion on Helen Keller. But Jordan was like, dude, she lived in the attic. I was like,
what?
That's Anne Frank. Where did you go to school? Like, I went to a hillbilly school where I didn't learn nothing and I still knew the difference. The fuck? So this is leading me to my opinion on Helen Keller, and if you are an OG, you know I have a very strong opinion on this. Helen Keller did not do shit. You cannot tell me that this woman flew a freaking airplane. You cannot tell me that. She did not do that.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Not your spectrum. But when I was really little, my dad got me a book about Helen Keller. And I didn't know that people people knew who Helen Keller was. And so I started reading this book and I like burst into my dad's room and I was like, Dad, this lady was blind and deaf. And he's like, I know. And I was like, oh, you know who this is? And he was like, yes. And I was like, oh, well, people know this story. But I don't know.
I think she's a big old conspiracy theory.
I believe it.
I can't grasp it in my noggin.
Oh, by the way, she's saying she doesn't believe Helen Keller
did the
stuff.
things
She's
that
not,
she did.
We're not talking about Anne Frank anymore, just to clarify.
Anne Frank did write the diary. I read it. Read the book in like 8th grade, yeah.
And then we had to watch a movie and it was really traumatizing.
And then Mrs. Rosenbaum was just in there sobbing. And I was like, I don't think that was a very age-appropriate thing.
No, we watched I don't even know if it was like the movie or if it was like some documentary or something.
I think it was the movie. Because it wasn't in like documentary format. But the thing with me is I'm mentally delayed by a couple years. So when I was 14, I was mentally 10. Like, I've always been a few years behind. Which is why I still have the body of a 10-year-old. I never hit puberty, I'm sorry. That's why my voice cracks so much.
That's why my voice cracks
Exactly. So much. But I do believe Helen Keller existed. but I believe that some of the things that they're saying that she did is questionable. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then the volleyball game that I was going to watch didn't start until midnight. So I literally watched it until 2 a.m.
You mean Keanu Reeves, the soccer player?
There was this volleyball player named Keanu Leakana. She plays for Texas. I watch volleyball, and I was like, oh, Keanu Leakana is serving. And Carly goes, Keanu Reeves?
I didn't know Keanu Reeves played soccer, and she was like, first of all, volleyball. And that's not what I said.
But today's topic is clackers. You know the thing?
Yeah, I know. Like the little handy.
Yeah.
Like handy. And that like hand-shaped.
The fact that you were doing the motion with your hand and you said the handy. Oh no. But in Mike's story, he tells us about a little side story about him throwing Legos into the fan. I used to do that all the time. I would sit there with my cousin in the living room, and we would take the Legos, we would throw them up at the fan, and we would duck and cover because we didn't know where they were going to go. Did you ever do that? Did you ever throw stuff at the fan? I feel like that's a common child experience.
I feel like I told this story on here already, but I was scared of ceiling fans when I was a kid.
No, you haven't.
Okay, so I have a cousin. Well, it's actually like my dad's cousin, so it's like my second cousin or something. Anyway, he's missing 2 fingers. And when I was little, me and my cousin that's the same age as me, we were playing with the ceiling fan at my great aunt's house. And my cousin came in and he was like, I lost my fingers playing with a ceiling fan, which was a lie, but it traumatized me. So I was absolutely terrified that the ceiling fan was going to cut my fingers off. So I didn't play with ceiling fan.
I don't like fans, specifically mine, because I know it makes a weird vibrating noise, and I don't like buzzing noises, so fans are like unless it's like a quiet fan, I can't deal with it.
Like that one time, this is a side note, but that one time there was something in my house that was going buzz, and I was like, and nobody else could hear it, and so I took a video and I was walking around the house and she was like, I can hear it. And it ended up being the light in my laundry room for some reason was making a very loud, like, buzzing electronic noise.
That was awful.
And I was like, what is it?
The Legos in the fan was probably a very dangerous activity. Did it anyway, probably lost some brain cells because of it, but here I am today, telling you about
I
it.
feel like it looks like we're on a split screen because there's like a line in the middle of the screen.
Dude, it's like an exact line too. It matches right up.
We're here together.
We're here together forever.
Help.
And on that note, I will get into the story so you can hear hear me read Mike's story about clackers. Have you ever owned clackers?
Yeah.
I haven't.
You know, the handy thing.
Yeah, that's where we got sidetracked. I've never had them. I feel like they would hurt my hands. Like they'd hit your knuckles.
Are you talking about the little, what are you I don't know what we're talking about.
Clackers.
Are you not talking about the thing that you do this and they like...
I have no idea. I was talking about I thought he was talking about,
Oh, that's not what I was talking about.
they're freaking dangerous.
No, I've never played with those. I thought she was talking about those little hands where there's like 3 little hands and you go like this and they go like... You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know that, but these were like glass balls tied on a string, and you would like clack them around, and they would like shatter. And
that sounds like I would have put my eye out, probably.
Yeah, see, safety hazard. Yeah, clackers are dangerous. Let us know if you've ever had clackers. I haven't, and that's probably a good thing. And she's never had them either. Also probably a good thing. Bye. Bye.
Clackers. This is another item that should bring back nostalgic memories to those who were old enough to remember. These were the days when you were considered the cool kid in the schoolyard if you could do yo-yo tricks or clacker tricks. I was never good at a yo-yo. I was not cool. Then there was my crowd who didn't care what anyone thought and would simply toss these in the air and have contests to see who could throw them the highest. I remember being at a friend's house and we decided to fool around with the ceiling fan in his room. We would turn the fan on full blast and toss random objects up into the fan blades and watch them get batted out of the air and ricochet off the walls. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that did that. One of his items was his pair of clackers, which almost flew back and hit us. That was the moment his mother walked in, and needless to say, she was not happy. We were sent outside to play, and as she walked away I heard her say, "Those things are weapons." She probably didn't realize just how accurate she was. During the 14th century, the indigenous tribes of Patagonia would hunt mammals and birds using a weapon called a bola, which consisted of 2 weights on either end of a string. These weapons were very simple to use and deadly accurate. The bola would be swung to give momentum before throwing. When it impacted the animal, it would entangle its legs, bringing it down. The bola was also used by Inuit tribes in the Inca army. From 1861 to 1883, Mapuche warriors would use bolas in combat against the Chilean army during the occupation of Araucania. But the bola is most commonly associated with the Argentinian cowboys known as gauchos. So when my friend's mother said, "Those things are weapons," she was spot on. Someone really did base a children's toy off of an ancient weapon used to kill animals and people. That someone was Richard Poe, an entrepreneur from California. Poe took the bola's basic design of 2 weights on a string, but instead of wooden balls or small leather sacks full of stones, he made the balls out of tempered glass. The design was patented in 1969, and by the early 70s, patent had been acquired by the Kranzo Group. An aggressive marketing campaign ensued. Between that and the mentality of cultural revolution and self-expression that was becoming prominent in this time, clackers quickly became extremely popular. The clackers patent was classified as a sports training device, which emphasized its potential as a tool for enhancing hand-eye coordination and dexterity. The children of the 1970s, however, simply saw it as a great way to show off. Playground battles and clacking competitions became a common sight. Pretty soon, all the streets and schoolyards were filled with vibrant colors and clacking noises. Besides the fame, the toys also picked up a bunch of new nicknames, such as click-clacks, knockers, bonkers, and kerbangs. It also didn't take long for accidents and safety concerns to start piling up. Besides the usual bumps and bruises from learning how to use it, the glass would get weak over time and clackers began exploding, sending glass shards everywhere. This prompted some schools to start banning them. Schools be banning everything. Manufacturers responded by placing the glass balls with ones made of acrylic, but these got too weak and began shattering. By 1972, the Consumer Product Safety Commission had enough, declaring the toys as a mechanical hazard. Clackers disappeared off the market after this, and by the late 70s they had fallen out of fashion. But the story isn't over yet. During the 90s and early 2000s, manufacturers began trying to revive clackers, this time using modern materials that wouldn't shatter. The craze didn't catch on as much as it did in the 70s, but in 2017, the toy had gained an amusing new nickname in Egypt. They became known as Sissis balls, which made fun of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The Egyptian police arrested 41 people who were selling the toys and confiscated 1,403 pairs, declaring them as offensive to the government. In 2022, clackers became popular in Indonesia under the names Lado Lado or Kado Kado, which means clacking noise in the native language. Nowadays, thanks to the popularity of TikTok, clackers have since become very popular in the Philippines.